Tosis and Tasteless, who have a few words to say to us.
What's up, guys? We are here at GamesCom, Intel Extreme Masters.
Yeah.
We are at this desk right now watching the games that you guys haven't been seeing. We got a little update for you.
That's right. We just watched Nerchio against DeMusliM, and turns out DeMusliM kind of crushed him in game number 1. He took a very greedy opening. You know, he went for triple command center, Banshee, Hellions, and double eBay, and then just punished Nerchio all over the place. Nerchio could never really secure a 4th base. So DeMusliM kind of ripped him apart on Ohana, and we're going to throw it back to day 9 here so that he can cast games 2 and possibly game number 3.
Take it away, my nerd brothers.
Thank you, my real brother, and Dan, my soul brother. Now, we do have the second match on Daybreak that we'll be able to cast, because again, we want to bring maximum games to the viewing audience at home. It's going to be a TVZ on Daybreak, and I'm actually quite surprised to say that DeMusliM up 1-0 against Nerchio. I mean, what are your thoughts on Nerchio's Zerg vs. Terran?
It's pretty formidable, like all his other matchups, to be honest with you. I mean, he's been able to take great series off a lot of Terrans through the qualification process during the European qualifier for the Intel Extreme Masters as well. He dominated his qualification process. Let's not beat around the bush here. From stage 2 onwards, he really did. So, but DeMusliM also, he actually didn't have that difficult a road coming through the qualification process. To qualify for this tournament, he was invited directly into the stage 3 of the North American qualifiers, and he only had to win 2 best-of-3s to be able to qualify here for Gamescom.
And there's kind of a weird shift that's been going on in DeMuslim's play style, where for a long time he was trying to develop this big attack at the front style, where he'd get a lot more barracks than your average player, be just doing more pushes at the front. He's sort of fallen back to the more standard Hellion Banshee play, but I think most notably he does it with a pretty strong resilience. He's not just going through the rote motions that a lot of players do. He almost invites the opponent to attack, because his defense in the early game, I think, is his strongest aspect.
Yeah, very, very much so. So let's jump straight into this game in just a second here. We're going to be loading up onto Daybreak for map number 2 with DeMusliM 1 game up. Realistically, I would have pegged Nerchio to be able to take this series. Nerchio just looking very, very formidable at this tournament thus far. And for DeMusliM, his recent tournament performances have been a bit shaky. I mean, everyone considers DeMusliM to be one of the top Terran foreigners in Europe. Obviously, he does live in America for a lot of the time, but let's consider him a European Terran.
I mean, if we base players on their accents, he is one of the best European accented players. Yeah, DeMusliM, actually, let's introduce our players spawning up at the top right, currently up 1-0 in a very impressive result. It is EG's DeMusliM.
And spawning down in the bottom left-hand corner, we do have our Polish Zerg spawning aptly as red. He goes by the name of Asa Nerchio.
Now, Nerchio, this is actually kind of an interesting scout placement for this Overlord. I'm actually going to continue to follow this line along. It looks like he wants to get behind this 3rd base. Very often you'll see players head up to this peg right here and make sure that there's no counter run around scouting, or perhaps even to this 2nd peg over here. These are essential for monitoring early Terran aggression, but Nerchio is actually getting absolutely no scout into the center of the game. Morglim's so upset about it, he just immediately quits.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, from there, it's going to be hard for Morglim to be able to really watch the rest of this series. I'm not sure how he's going to be able to deal with that, but okay. So, I mean, coming back to the qualification process of DeMusliM coming into this, he didn't actually have to play any Zergs whatsoever. He just had to go straight through Protosses and Protosses, and he actually defeated Minigun during that qualification process, who is actually here today, who... for Minigun, the qualification process was ridiculous, and we'll get to that if we end up casting some of his games later on. Now, I mean, in terms of ratios for DeMuslim's international presence for TVZ, it's pretty much 50-50. He wins literally 51% of his TVZs in international tournaments, so it's very up in the air here as well as to whether or not he's going to be able to really do something.
Yeah, I mean, Nerchio, though, I mean, I I'd like his Zerg versus Protoss a little bit more, but certainly Nerchio is one of those Zergs that has fallen in the vein of most Zergs going for that very infestor-heavy style.
Yeah.
And what I especially like about Nerchio is his judgment with engagements. He's very careful about making sure he doesn't overextend, that he doesn't try to overcommit to honestly, one of the easiest to overcommit matchups ever. You see those Marines clustered, and you go, no, I'll engage, because if I get that one fungal off, it'll be amazing. And the Terran player splits at the last second, and you get 4 Marines, and all the commentators go, oh, weak fungal growth, and all the infestors, for some reason, are still charging forward, getting filled with bullets. It's just like Starship Troopers. It's a real tragedy, but Nerchio is very cautious with those engagements.
He is indeed. And just to bring a little bit of factual information to the cast here, Nerchio and DeMusliM, prior to this series, have actually gone up against each other recently in 3 series worth of matches during tournament play. Now, DeMusliM has lost every single one of those 3 series against Nerchio. The previous game, with DeMusliM being 1-up, is the second game in the last 10 games that they've played against each other that he has actually been able to take. So Nerchio really does have DeMuslim's number, or has had it for quite a while.
See 2 more Overlords moving up for Nerchio. Again, sort of interesting scout placement, some scout timing, but coming back to what you were saying earlier about how does DeMusliM break out of that slump that he's been having against Nerchio. And I also think this is the basic build that Nerchio, or that DeMusliM has really fallen back on. He's going to be going Hellion Banshee. He's got his 3rd command center up. He has all the pieces in play to just set himself up for a long macro game. He's going to be following this up with the very early double engineering bay, the 3rd. But the real decision point against the modern Zerg play, do you do a big push before you get 2-2 done?
Yeah.
Do you try to pressure with medevac? Or do you say, no, you know, I was going Hellion Banshee too hard. I don't quite have that mid-game prowess. I'd be throwing those units away. That's the hard part for DeMusliM.
And meanwhile, we do have just completely droning up here. He's just getting out 5 extra drones. 37 drones right now to the 29 here for Nerchio. Establishing that 3rd, pretty quick here. Daybreak, a map that does allow for these kinds of things to occur, unless, of course, DeMuslim's getting really aggressive. He will probably poke in with the Hellions, and depending on whether or not Nerchio's responses are correct, he might be able to get a little bit of damage done there. It all entirely depends on when Nerchio really transfers over to that 3rd base. Most Zergs nowadays are very conservative about that play. They like to stick around with their drones on those 2 bases, and then once the threat dissipates from the pretty predictable Hellion pokes, then they will end up transferring over.
And I'm not going to lie, I love Lucera's style in this matchup. 4 hatch before layer, 8, 9 queens, extending creep into the middle of the map, getting close to your opponent's base by 15 minutes with creep.
Yeah.
That is the sort of thing that I think definitely thwarts this Hellion Banshee play that's so popular right now. But against what Nerchio's doing, Nerchio's getting up his Roach Warren. He's going for the Zergling speed. We see the +1 attack upgrade. It's a very typical looking structure. But ooh, DeMuslim's doing kind of an interesting twist. We have the 2 engineering bays going down, but also some quite reasonably early barracks. So DeMusliM could be following up with some aggression.
Yeah, could quite easily ramp up that bioproduction very quickly from this point on. Banshee going to be able to rendezvous at the front of the base here with these Hellions in just a little bit. Zerglings on their way to have a little bit of a poke around, see if there's a 3rd base down, which would be very quick, admittedly. But we have seen Terrans being able to do that, especially on a map like Daybreak. And for now, the Zerglings going to poke in, and actually it will. Ooh, nice reaction times there by DeMusliM.
Yeah, DeMusliM really swiftly reacting, but not before losing a couple of probes, and there is one of the big reasons why I love watching DeMusliM play in this matchup. Look at that, 1 worker killed off, a single worker. It's just an incredible reaction right there. In the units lost tab, we see that this swift Hellion Banshee play is really helping him stay alive, but oh, nope, there he's back. Just with 2 lings, manages to get more than 200% damage of what he's done previously.
Yeah, very nicely done. Picking off just any kind of worker at this earlier stage in the game can be very important. Right now, though, DeMusliM going to try and poke at the front of this 3rd location. Roaches and Queens trying to deal with this as best they can do. We just get 2 workers, 3 workers, and a few more will end up falling. As for now, 5 workers killed.
How did DeMusliM lose that little there? That is actually uncanny. This Banshee's really freaking me out with how low it is on the health front. Nerchio doing everything you should do as a Zerg in this spot, getting an earlier macro hatchery, getting an earlier set of upgrades, and an earlier infestation pit.
Whoa.
But most importantly, I really love this ooze up on the natural expansion, and look at DeMusliM just going mega barracks. Holy crap.
Yeah, he is going interstellar with this amount of barracks so quickly, as he will try and establish his third base in just a little bit. Going to be slightly delayed by about a minute's in-game time there by that full spread of creep from that Overlord. And as such, Nerchio transitioning into his true tried and tested build, that infestation pit.
And look at this, another macro hatch. I actually think that this is a brilliant maneuver by Nerchio. I mean, with these little pokes and prods that the Hellion Banshees are doing, this will be annoying, but it will never kill the front. You'll never be overrun with your defenses against really any number of Hellion Banshee. Nerchio just responds by getting so many hatcheries up, droning so hard, so that way by the time DeMusliM does have his stuff up, Nerchio's ready to match him.
I really appreciate the concise analytics of that extra macro hatchery, because he's going to go Ling Infestor. He needs so much lava to be able to make that work for him in the mid-game now, though.
No.
Hellion's going to be surrounded pretty quickly here, and wow, lovely moves there by Nerchio to be able to rip apart that aggression.
And now finally, right after the creep has been cleared, Zerglings burrow directly underneath. 9 infestors coming out. 77 drones up for Nerchio. A scan must be wasted. And with all these barracks up, you see the little white dots that are up on all of them. Won't be up for that much longer, as DeMuslim's been unable to secure this third base. Needed that income a little bit earlier.
Really, really did. Those 9 infestors going to be popping anytime soon right now, as +2, +1 going down for these melee units for Nerchio. Meanwhile, a Banshee somehow managed to scoot past the vision of those Zerglings, I believe, and he has that Spire on the way now. But he's already taken Spore Crawler precautions against the potential Banshee if it wants to come along. It's just going to sit around in the middle of the map for now.
Yeah, I like to sort of preempt the Spore Crawler, and you just want to make sure you don't suffer any annoyingness from drops. Zerglings burrowed everywhere. Nerchio has a near 100% vision of everything that's going on in mid-map. Even this one Banshee can't even pick off a single Zergling. Little tiny counterattacks by Nerchio, not just being annoying, but also forcing DeMusliM continually back in the big Zergling play, goes ahead and hits the third.
Oh, wow. He's going to be able to use that whole position so fantastically here to be able to rip apart so many of his Zerglings. Interestingly enough, he's actually burrowed a little bit of them, so you can follow this up later with another poke once he actually comes along. Does he know they're there? Does he realize they burrowed?
Well, looks like he manages to pick off those back surrounding Lings. Going to load up into this bunker first. It's an excellent position. DeMuslim's moving out with surprisingly low force. 3 tanks up right now, but oh no, Nerchio has the exact force that he needs. He just annihilates all those units at the front side. Everything getting completely decimated at the third base. Nothing has been unburrowed, but the main army of DeMusliM has been just absolutely crushed.
Yeah, this is looking very scary for him, but a lovely little drop in the back here with the Marauders able to focus down those infestors so quickly, thanks to the fact that they are indeed armored, and Marauders rip them up for now. Nice fungal to be able to shut that down eventually, but those Zerglings still tried to poke in at the third and get even more SCV kills.
This is a really cool readjustment that we're seeing out of Nerchio. Almost always players are just all out. I'm going to get my... not Guardians, Broodlords. I want to get my Broodlords up as fast as possible. I want to get my Ultras up as fast as possible, but Nerchio is going just adrenaline infestor to the max. No amount of bunkerage can hold this amount of Zerglings off. DeMusliM tries to move down the narrow choke, but Nerchio has him right where he wants him. Fungals loses plenty of Zerglings in the process, but also killed himself off another healthy set of SCVs.
Just such calm and collected infestor control there. He knew his opponent was kind of on the back foot, and he just pokes forward, backwards, fungal. It's really, really nicely done. 106 Zerglings were on the map. Now he's going to actually flood in here and try and surround these remaining siege tanks that lay in wait, and they get ripped to shreds. But the Bio will be able to fend this off for now.
DeMusliM is just kind of biding his time until he gets the 3-3 up, but Nerchio's making sure that DeMusliM can't even get close to max. The constant aggression of this expansion really making DeMusliM wish he had one of those huge wall lofts with a supply depot barracks. I mean, look at this. This is a little tiny maneuver by Nerchio. just wreaking havoc on DeMusliM.
Yeah, and he's constantly been harassing this third base. Not too much to the point where it's been, oh, wow, just barely saving that hatchery, really. But now, for now, DeMusliM is going to be able to try and poke up there within turrets of army. He has been spotted by a single burrowed Zergling, though, so he knows exactly where he's going to be hitting.
There's the force moving up. DeMusliM just does the last little itty bit of damage he needs. Broodlord's now morphing in the middle, and yet again, we see very much so like in the ZVP game of Inori versus Nerchio. We're seeing all the morph straight in the middle of the map. Ton of medevacs coming way. What plan does DeMusliM have in store? What is going to be going on?
I don't know how he's going to be able to deal with this composition Nerchio right now. He doesn't really have... Does he even have the intel required to be able to know that there are Broodlords out on the map?
What? I'm so scared for these units. They're just hanging out here. Why are they here? Why are they here? Oh, it looks like he does spot the Broodlords. How? DeMusliM is going to lose all of these units. All the infestors rush up. They immediately go and burrow. There's the target fire. 1, 2, 3 go down instantly. But, I mean, DeMusliM just lost a world of units, just lost this infestor, excuse me, just lost this attempt to drop. DeMusliM getting a little bit desperate, continuing to try to step forward, but the Zergling count from Nerchio is absurd.
Yeah, Zergling's just chewing away at this bio as it tries to retreat away now, but again, so much out for Nerchio. 5 more infestors on the way. Look at that bank in comparison to how much DeMuslim's just been completely shut down. Not really too much of a bank, not too much of an income here against the furious relentlessness of Nerchio.
I think DeMuslim's going to want to keep those rocks up just a little bit longer. Oh no, he knocks them down. That's going to be a huge pathway open for all those Zerglings right now. DeMusliM desperately needs to make sure he doesn't get another fungal landed on those medevacs, but it's going to be very hard as they're going to be running every which way, trying to re-micro around. And again, the third base, the consistent target of Nerchio, gets assaulted yet again while the Broodlords rain down from the north.
Yeah, Zergling's going to be able to get great surface area on the rest of that bio, as well as the tanks over to that location. A few Vikings out picking away at the Broodlords, so he could quite easily get some free kills here. But again, there's so many Zerglings left over against 14 Marines and 6 Marauders. It's not going to look pretty.
Vikings will manage to take out all the Broodlords, 76 Zerglings in production. Oh my god, is he going to land it again? You bet. It is Nerchio eliminating all those SCVs. 79 workers killed this game, 81 now Nerchio, demonstrating why he's been able to continue to roll DeMusliM again and again in their confrontations. This long-term TVZ play is magnificent.
And hey, while we're at it, why not just throw an extra 100 Zerglings on that production tab pretty much as they flood across the map once again to be able to save the dear sweet infestors from a lone siege tank. And, you know, throw down the Ultralisk Cavern as well, as the Zergling's now going to be able to once again flood in, tearing apart that bio. And yeah, DeMusliM doesn't really have too much of a hope at this point.
As the Zerglings continue to swarm around, DeMusliM is continuing to macro his best, his third base. Not even very well mined. GG.
GG, man. GG.
Series ties up 1-1. And Nerchio, again, really able to just buckle down after losing game ones and just keep drilling forward.
Well, I mean, during the qualification process for Nerchio, he was able to take out 2 very, very predominant European Terrans in the form of Empire's Happy and ATN Cloud. Yeah. So, and both of these players, I would say, hold very, very close pegs to the level of DeMusliM. I mean, Happy is a very predominant figure in the European scene right now. So, it's looking tough here for DeMusliM going into game number 3. He's got it all to work for. And I don't know, Nerchio looked really, really strong in that game.
I absolutely love that poster. Okay, screw the analysis. That poster is awesome. Thank you, sir. Yes, I see you a few feet there behind me. Anyways, I love this emphasis on getting the very early 5th hatchery on 3 base and getting way more Zerglings than is normal. Because Zerglings kind of have this tendency to just be almost like a filler unit. You get it because you're mainly trying to build the infestors and trying to get up to the hive. But Nerchio says, no, I'm actually going to commit to Zerglings. I'm going to be harassing nonstop. I'm going to be doing direct attacks. I'm going to have the biggest Ling infestor army ever.
Yeah.
and eventually I'll get Broodlords.
Yeah, and on those 3 bases, he really, we drew attention to it earlier, but the fact that he had not only 1 macro hatch, but the 2nd macro hatch, to be able to really fuel that with absolute constant amounts of lava, really high levels of lava there. So I really, again, we spoke about it yesterday, actually, the way in which just Zergling mid-games, or very high levels of Zergling mid-games, it really does put the emphasis on your decision-making, your counter-attack potential, your separating of units. It can be really amazing to watch.
I mean, I almost, kind of continuing on that, I almost feel like a lot of the gas units are a demonstration of your ability to defend, your ability to have held on and to have gotten that mixture up. I mean, if you imagine an Infestor Broodlord force, the hardest part about it is getting it.
Yeah.
But the hardest part about Zerglings is making use of them. They're so flimsy, they get easily taken down by pretty much any composition if there's units there at any point. But my God, every engagement Nerchio made with those Zerglings, they killed off at least a couple SCVs, big packs of Marines. I mean, it was sexy in every possible way.
That's a very good way to describe it there, Day 9, as it was indubitably. So for now, we are going to be loading up onto Game 3 in just a little second here.
It's going to be Cloud Kingdom, and of all maps, I think that this is going to absolutely favor Nerchio's style. This big Zergling emphasis. I mean, getting a 4th base at all is hard on Cloud Kingdom, but when you have pretty much only Zerglings, it's kind of easy to just spread out, deal with all the different positions, as long as you have the vision on the map.
And actually, I mean, what we were saying about Zerglings yesterday was predominantly, we saw the style on Cloud Kingdom. I can't recall for the life of me who the player was that was going for the really heavy levels amounts of Zerglings.
It was either Dark Force or Delphi that we were watching.
I think
believe
so.
It was Delphi that we were watching in that first series against... One of the Zergs we saw yesterday did do a lot of Zerglings, and it worked out quite well, the idea of taking the 4th and 5th at the same time and trying to straddle that.
Yeah, it was really impressive. So we've seen Nerchio pull it out here. I mean, when you speak of very high levels amount of Zerglings, you do hark back to that Stefano style in some matchups of just saying, I'm just going to go only Zergling this game.
Z-key works.
And then he has all his hatcheries macro to exactly the same place. He's like following his army around with all his waypoints and everything, and just watching it is majestic in itself.
Majestic, that is the greatest word to describe those Zerglings.
It really, I mean, they flow like water, man. They flow like water.
And actually, as a total non sequitur, I found out the reason for the slight delay. As we are at GamesCom, there's tons of booths in the area. I mean, I saw the ESL booth is just gigantic here.
Oh, it's amazing.
This stage, the League of Legends stage, the bonus StarCraft stage, all the extra areas. And there's a huge sound booth at the other end of the hall that is so loud, it is rumbling our stage, and apparently was rumbling the main stage so much that DeMusliM was having trouble controlling his units properly.
Oh my God, look how busy it is. Wow. I've never been to Gamescom before, and yesterday was the press day, so we didn't have too many people here, but we have an absolute flood of people in today, so a massive thank you for everyone joining us here,
a huge
guys.
round of applause for all you coming out. Hi, guys.
Round of applause, guys. Hey, and I even see Mouse Marine in the crowd as well.